One of the mitzvot that appears in this week's parsha is that of kan tzipor, that a bird, a mother bird, that is sitting on her eggs or on her chicks, on the small birds, and she wants and the person wants to take the eggs or the young birds, so he has to send the mother away. Lo sika choheim al abonim. Shaloach tishlach esoheim. You have to send the mother away. In fact, we have the entire mitzvah portrayed for us upstairs in the stained glass windows over our Oren Kodesh. The windows were made by an English artist, Hillman, who was a brother-in-law of Rav Herzog. His father was a great Talmud Chacham. In any event, there's a Mishnah in Brochus that says, that has wider ramifications, but it says, Kol ha'omer, if somebody says, Yagolu rachamecha, that your mercy should extend to human beings the way it extended to the mother of the birds, is mashtikin oso. You don't let him say that. Rashi says the reason is because of the fact that the lesson of being kind, let's say, to the mother, to animals, is not the reason that the Torah gave us this mitzvah. So there the Gemara discusses other ideas, but based on this, there arises a question, a general question, which deals with Ta'amei mitzvot, with whether or not we are to ascribe logical, rational, human explanations as to why the Torah gave us this mitzvah or that mitzvah. In other words, the mitzvot have a rational basis, or is it kulam gzeira? It's all just a decree from heaven, and we are bound. There's a superior knowledge here, greater understanding of the universe. So whatever the kol asher diber Hashem na'aseh v'nishma, whatever God said we'll do, or whether or not we either are obligated or at least allowed to try and find rational reasons for mitzvot. So from this Mishnah, it seems that one should avoid it. We cannot, so to speak, read God's mind. We don't know why he told us to send the bird away. And that's true in many other mitzvot as well that we don't understand. So therefore, we should leave it alone. However, it says in the Torah, Som lo choku mishpot. There did God give them chok, a law, a decree. So chok, chukim, meaning laws that are beyond our understanding. The classic one is Porah Aduma. But mishpot means laws that we are capable of understanding. And we are capable of having reasons of an understanding why the law was given. So for instance, in the halachas that appear and the mitzvahs that appear regarding damages, regarding real estate, regarding monetary matters. So there, it's logical. The Gemara is built upon that fact. What is the svara? What's the logic? Why? Which opinion? Etc. But what about mitzvot generally? So and during the time of the Gaonim in Bavel, the subject was discussed, but there were no books written about it that we have. That started to change in the early Middle Ages, where under the influence of the fact that the non-Jewish world adopted Aristotelian philosophy, the Christian church adopted it completely. And so therefore that came to influence the Jews as well. And we have already the beginnings of books that are Tamei HaMitzvot, that give reasons for the mitzvah, rational reasons, philosophic reasons, historic reasons. And for instance, the Rambam in the Moreh Nevuchim, his most controversial work, so fully a third of the book is devoted to Tamei HaMitzvot. And the Rambam's main his main explanation for all mitzvot is that it's to separate us from avodah zarah, to separate us from paganism. And the Rambam therefore says, for instance, that the prohibition that the Torah advances regarding meat and milk, lo savashel gedi b'chalev imo, he says is because that was a pagan idea, to mix it, to cook it together, to eat it together. And therefore, in order to distance us from paganism, from pagan ideas, so the Torah said the prohibition against meat and milk together. Now the Rambam is out on a limb on that, but that's his opinion. And we find there's the Sefer HaChinuch, which discusses the mitzvot in every parsha, and he always explains what the reason for the mitzvah is. And the danger in that is, as we all know, is that reasons that were advanced, let's say, in the Middle Ages, do not resonate with us today. You know, the famous idea that the Jews did not eat pork or ham, and because of the disease of trichinosis, was rampant throughout the 19th century. And therefore, when Reform came and said that since there's no trichinosis today, so then you're allowed there's no prohibition against eating the flesh of swine. So that's the problem. The problem is by advancing ideas and explanations which may sound valid in one generation, you run into a problem that those very explanations may not be solid in another generation, simply because we know different things or other factors now exist that we didn't take into account before. So therefore, that always became a problem. Now, the problem was whether to look at the Torah, so to speak, rationally, or to look at it supernaturally. If you look at it supernaturally, then all of these objections fall by the wayside. The Rebbeinu Shalom told us to do it. There's a God that has his reasons. Kilo machshavosai, machshavosechem. We will never understand God's reasons, so just do it. But in an age or in a society that places a great deal of emphasis on knowledge and on discovery and wants to understand everything, so that's very hard to say. It's very hard to sell it, so to speak. So when we search matters of cells and DNA and all sorts of minute things, so it's difficult to say that, the Torah arbitrarily would command us to do things for which there's no rational basis and we have no understanding. So this has remained a topic more or less until our time. So for instance, in the Parish to the Chumash of Samson Raphael Hirsch, so he spends a great deal of time discussing Tamei HaMitzvos, why the mitzvah, what does the mitzvah come to teach us? And he tries to fit it into his society so that it was understandable to his readers. But there again, you run across this same problem, that what sounded good in 1860 Frankfurt doesn't resonate in 2018 Jerusalem. Yes, there a whole piece, for instance, where he discusses Yaakov and Esav. So he says that Esav is getting better and better as time progresses. It's coming closer to be Yaakov. Esav is, so to speak, a positive force in the world, which is good understanding of 1860 German society, where the Jews felt that way. But I don't think that we're convinced that Esav got any better. In fact, Germany itself proved that Esav was as cruel and evil as one could ever imagine. So that's the problem. So the problem is today, for instance, it's very popular. You read it in the newspapers, and you read it in the Alonei Shabbat and the little pamphlets on Shabbat that are distributed in the synagogue, and everybody discusses the Parsha in terms of today. So that is a very positive thing. It's very good. It makes it relevant. We know what the Torah is talking about. The Torah is talking to us. The problem is that what is relevant in one generation is not relevant in another generation. And the Torah is eternal. The Torah spans all generations. So therefore, explaining things in terms of now, which may be very satisfying, can create great problems, because now doesn't last. It's not a permanent state, and the Torah is a permanent state. So I imagine that this debate within the Jewish people will continue. I don't think that it's ever solved. So there are those even today that say, the question is, for instance, how do you teach Chumash? You teach it relative